Guys, it's me Pilot, and in today's video we're going to be ranking mechs based off of if they can be countered or can't be countered. This is based off of my opinion, so without further ado, let's get right into it. The first mech we're going to be starting off with is Aegis, and in my opinion, Aegis has some counters, but not a lot. His dome shield is really helpful. Only bad thing about Aegis is that he's slow, and his dome shield is on a timer. The dome shield is like really good, but there was one point in time when Aegis first came out where the dome shield, literally no one could shoot through it, including his teammates, which did make it a bit problematic, which did lead to many people not using it at the time. But now that got fixed, and now it's actually free to play, many people use it, and it's really good late game. So I'd recommend using it. If like you're in tier 5 or tier 6, I'd recommend having it for a tank. Next up is Arachnos, and in my opinion, Arachnos is kind of, well, a first blood. It sucks. I mean, Arachnos' turn isn't good, its HP isn't good, its speed isn't good. I mean, it did switch from a support, or from an attacker to a support, so its energy capacity for support is actually like really good, but its turn just doesn't do much damage, and I wouldn't recommend having him in your hangar. You do get him for free through a derby event, but let's say you get the kill shot derby event instead of the Arachnos derby event. He's 45,000 credits, and I would not recommend spending credits on him. Next up is Ares, and Ares has a lot of counters. Once you reach mid game or like late mid game, you're gonna see him start disappearing a little bit. His shield gets countered by something with a large arc, such as nade launchers or crowd launchers. Crowd launchers I don't really think actually counter because the arc isn't big enough. But Helix Racks are a great counter to it. So Bastion, Bastion actually has a lot of counters in my opinion. His shield, yes, does wrap around his body, so it stops like minigun and like strong weapons like overdrivers, correct? But I mean at the same time, anything that's guided and anything that is like artillery, such as like fuse mortars, rocket mortars, or like javelin racks, helix racks, anything like that could pretty much render this guy useless. But if you do go head on with him on like pod guns, his ability is going to do damage, and it actually has a decent range too. So don't forget about that. Blockhorn is next up, and Blockhorn has some counters, but it does have more counters than Aegis. Blockhorn, in my opinion, is really useful. Like once you reach where you can unlock it, I recommend keeping it in the hangar for the rest of the game, especially when playing Control Point Clash, because this thing actually is really good. Its ability pretty much is a shield that practically not only blocks damage but buffs teammates damage as well, and yours, so it could be really helpful, and I would definitely recommend using it. It's a great tank in general as well. So yeah. Next up, I would recommend strictly to keep Blockhorn in your hangar for a long time. So yeah. Next up is Brick House. Brick House isn't too good, but it's not too bad, but it does have a lot of counters. I actually am gonna put it at the top right now because it has less counters than both of these. But Brick House's ability pretty much just buffs the damage. It's the worst legendary of the game, in my opinion. Even though it has more counters than Bastion, Bastion is still more useful. The reason I say it has a bunch of counters is because in most game modes, his teammates are gonna split up. So I mean, his ability is basically used to buff his teammates. That's why he's a support and not him. But it could still be useful in some ways. So, Cheetah is a big first blood, but it's definitely has less counters than Arachnos for sure. Cheetah's proximity mines could be used sometimes, but not all the time. And I would not recommend buying him in the first place. So if you're gonna buy him, don't even plan on it. Cheetah's not good. His speed's good, but his HP isn't, and his mines are only useful early game. Early game to the start of mid game, and even then I wouldn't recommend buying him till then. Next up is Deathwalker. Now Deathwalker is really good. He only has a few counters, such as like Outlaw or Guardian, which we're actually going to get into both of them soon. But other than that, I don't believe Deathwalker has much counters. The best thing to do against this thing is just to waste its ability. So that's pretty much it. Don't shoot it if it has an ability on. Let your teammates take care of that. Dreadnought, I believe, does have some counters. I believe it has more counters than Blockhorn and Aegis. A really big counter to this is actually Redeemer, which is actually we're gonna cover as well. Redeemer, as if you backtrack while it uses its ability, not only will you not take any damage, but the Dreadnought won't take any. The Dreadnought won't get a speed boost either, so that's always helpful. Next up is Eclipse, and Eclipse is one of those can't counter mechs. The only thing I think that can counter it from a safe distance is Outlaw, and even then, Outlaw kind of still gets hard countered by this thing, because in its ability, you can't see it anywhere from across the map, you can't track it with guided weapons, it doesn't get affected by anything pretty much, and it gets a speed buff, so there's nothing else that needs to be said. Gatecrasher actually has a lot of counters, depending on what you attach it on, but it definitely has less counters than Breakhouse for sure. Actually, I'm gonna put it at the very end here. Gatecrasher's ability pretty much like I think it's called Ion Beam. It just attaches a giant beam to a wall, which will shoot out and deal tons of damage. And if you attach it to another mech, it will also do damage. But again, Redeemer's a counter to this. If it attaches it to a Redeemer, it's practically the ability was wasted. Guardian has way more counters than Gatecrasher though. I mean, you're going to see it mid-game, and then once mid-game is about to end, you're not going to see it anymore. Its ability range is pretty low, only at 30 meters, and it's slow, has great energy capacity, and is decently tanky. So, Hemlock goes in a few counters here. I have my reasons. It definitely has more counters than Deathwalker, though, don't get me wrong, but Hemlock's ability pretty much guarantees a 2 seconds worth of stunning for damage. And if not, if you just don't shoot him, it's a 7 seconds of stun, so you could always... And if you have a Salvor with it, not only do you have 7 seconds to heal, you also have 7 seconds to get multiple mechs on one mech, which could be very useful to taking out an Eclipse, if he doesn't have his ability on. Juggernaut is, again, a First Blood, but it goes right, actually under Cheetah. His shield isn't tanky. It actually takes a pretty long time to get the shield, and I mean, most mechs, and it's slow, and most of these mechs counter it except for maybe Arachnos, because obviously Juggernaut has about almost the same energy capacity, I'm not sure, so it can really do something to Arachnos, but that's the reason I put it above Arachnos. Killshot has some counters, actually has, I believe, more counters than Dreadnought, but less counters than Gatecrasher. Killshot, I've seen people put EM rifles on this thing. Many people use it once you reach mid-game because it's so good at getting in people's faces and getting them up close, but also getting surprising the opponent. So I would definitely recommend use Killshot late game or mid game. But once you reach late game, would not recommend using Killshot again after that, just because its ability isn't really going to be useful then. Next up is Lacewing. Lacewing definitely goes into has some counters. It has less counters than Dreadnought, but definitely more than Blockhorn, just in my opinion. Mainly because it's not really used mainly for getting in people's faces. It's actually really good at sniping. So if you equip Geminis or EM rifles on this thing, it's gonna do really good. And also the fact that you can control where you're gonna jump is really useful. And it also drops mines, so it's really hard to counter this thing. But I would definitely recommend Guardian, Outlaw, or heck even Hemlock would be really good against this. I would not recommend using Killshot or Onyx against it for sure. Lancer has some counters. It definitely has less counters more counters than Killshot and less than Gatecrasher in my opinion. Lancer is for a common scout that you get at the start of the game, it is really useful. I actually use it in my hangar with a Gemini 12s on it currently, and it absolutely shreds. I would definitely recommend putting if you're in about to go into late game, I wouldn't recommend using it, but if you're in mid game, use it. Try to upgrade it as best you can. MD, this is going at the bottom of First Blood. It's worse than Arachnos, and that's really saying something. Because MD, its healing doesn't do much. It's pretty slow. It has decent HP and pretty bad energy capacity for a support mech. If not, maybe mid energy capacity. Okay, Mimicker, it actually depends. It does have, in my opinion, more counters than Hemlock, but it depends on what the Mimicker scans. So, if the Mimicker, like, scans a scout, it's going to be difficult to take it out, but it's possible. If it scans a tank, it's going to be pretty easy, because all it does is gain a shield. But the worst case scenario, it scans a scout, so. Next up is Nomad. It's one of those can't counter mechs. It's so difficult to counter this, because again, these two mechs just get countered by Outlaw, and then again, the chain dash doesn't have like that long of a reload. So and depending on how many people are in front of the Nomad will depend on how many dashes it does. And it's so broken, because you see many people putting like Ember guns on this thing, or Revokers specifically. I see a bunch of people play against a bunch of people that use Revokers on this thing. So I definitely recommend, if you're going to use Nomad, use Revokers and have them in your hangar. Either one of these two. Onyx, actually, in my opinion, has a lot of counters, but it has less counters than Bastion. Onyx's quad rocket ability is a missile rack on its back. That's it. So as long as you can find a way to dodge the missile rack, it could be pretty good. I've seen people use miniguns on it and played against it. If they do use that, it's going to hurt bad. So I'd recommend watching out for that. So, yeah. Next up is Orion. Orion is going to be, it has some counters. And actually, I believe has more counters than Killshot, but less than Lancer. Just because, in my opinion, Orion is all dependent on the map. If it's a pretty large and open map, Orion is really good. But if it's enclosed, it's going to be hard to hit the Orion ability. And as long as you can't hit that, Orion doesn't do much. But if you do hit the ability, I'd recommend using pod guns or storm racks, because they're going to hurt. Now, they're going to hurt. Outlaw goes up here at the very front has a few counters. Outlaw is pretty much a better Guardian by far. It resets any mech from a large radius. So if we're going to go, I believe Outlaw is actually the only mech that I know that can counter Eclipse, Nomad, and another mech we're going to get into soon. So, yeah. Next up is Panther. Panther does have some counters. Actually, I believe it has less counters than Blockhorn. Panther's shield or barrier, stasis barrier, is pretty good at stopping really, really hard hitting guns. Like, it counters a lot of guns actually, and it applies the stasis effect when it's run into. But then again, shoot over it with Helix racks or any barrage weapon like nade launchers, it's gonna do something. Now, the length of the shield is really good as well, so I would definitely recommend picking up Panther, but don't use him once you reach into late game, because it's gonna be hard to use him then. Paragon, I wouldn't say it's a first blood, but it does have a lot of counters, and it goes at the very end. Because Paragon, sure, it has very good energy capacity for a common attacker, decent HP, but it's so slow, and its boost ability doesn't really do much for it. So there's no point in having a mech that's ability is supposed to boost its speed when it doesn't really boost its speed. And its HP is pretty bad for an attacker, even though it's a common mech, so. Parasite has some counters. I'm going to actually put it in front of Aegis, because this mech is actually really interesting. Whatever you attack it with, if it uses ability on you, you will take the damage back to you. And it will only take like minus 80% or something like that. It's really good. Can you counter with certain weapons? Yes. But I would definitely not recommend using strong weapons against this thing, especially if it attaches to you. Let your teammates attack it, not you, because if you do attack it, it's gonna hurt. But if you're using like Guardian against it or Outlaw, it will do something. Puma is absolutely horrible. Its HP sucks, its energy capacity is decent, and its shield's horrible. I would not recommend using it. Redeemer is really, really, really good, actually. It definitely counters Dreadnought and probably would also counter Panther. So I'm gonna put it right here. Now the reason I say this is because when Redeemer is maxed out, it removes every effect when backtracking, and that is really, really, really useful. So if we're gonna go based off of just straight, if it can counter everything, this can probably counter multiple things on this list, except for these probably. It can remove daze, so it might counter Hemlock, but then again, backtrack doesn't. It only backtracks you 10 seconds, and you don't really heal HP back. So as long as the Hemlock really does daze you before you use your backtrack, it's pretty useless other than that. Redux has a lot of counters. It actually has, I would say it has less counters than Ares, and actually less counters than Brickhouse, but it does have a lot of counters. Redox's ability, Caustic Blast, I believe it's called, it doesn't do much damage. It can't hit through walls, and it does slow the opponent, I believe, but many Redoxes don't have, I don't really know of, that do have, like, strong weapons. I've seen Redox with pod guns, but, I mean, other than that, I would recommend using that on your Redox if you do have it. One thing I know that can counter Redox, once again, is Redeemer, because it removes that, but other than that, I do not know if anything else can counter Redox. Parasite's a pretty good counter to it, as anything you do to it, it will do back to you. So if you're going against a bunch of Redoxes, use Parasite. Salvor is really difficult here, so I'm gonna put it. It has way less counters than Killshot and here, but I'm gonna put it right here. Salvor's ability is really interesting because not only do you heal your teammates, you technically heal yourself, and that's really useful for staying alive most of the game. Many people who use Salvor are known for staying alive pretty much the entire game. So definitely, if you have Salvor, put him in there as an extra support for your team and yourself. Scorpius or Scorpion, one of those two. I'm gonna call him Scorpius. He has more counters than Onyx, but less than Bastion. His ability is just Javelin Racks on his back. It's not that good. He's slow, has pretty little HP for an attacker. His energy capacity is good, but that's pretty much all about him. Seeker is going up here. He's one of those can't counter mechs. He can counter Surge's ability. He's really, really good at pretty much stopping anything in his tracks because you can teleport behind him. Many people get up close with him because once he teleports, he gets a shield. I've seen Ember Guns on him. I've seen Cryo Launchers. I've seen Nade Launchers. I've seen mainly on this guy, I've seen mainly Revokers. So, yeah, definitely recommend. If you're going to use him, use Revokers. To counter him, though, I would definitely recommend using Hemlock with Storm Racks just to get rid of the shield faster. Sentinel does have a lot of counters, but it's probably going to be under Redox in my opinion, because Sentinel pretty much stops anything that has a high arc, but the only weapon I know of that can curve around that is Hornets and Pod Guns. So if you have any of those on your mech, use those against the Sentinel. But if you do use Sentinel, put miniguns on there because he'll shred. Shadow's one of those first blood mechs. It's right here about. Actually, yeah, it's right. It's right above Juggernaut. For a scout, has horrible HP. Actually decent energy capacity, but decent in great speed. But other than that, his power isn't too good, and his HP is like not the best either. So Slingshot. Actually, I would put right under Bastion, but above Paragon, mainly because Slingshot is actually used sometimes more other than Killshot, because Slingshot's just a worse Killshot. His ability does a little bit less damage, and he has a little bit less HP. That's it. So, if you do want to counter him, though, again, use Guardian. Silverthorn's a new one. I don't know much about him, but I'm going to put him above Guardian and Gatecrasher. Actually, I'll put him, like, right here, above Lancer. I don't know much about Silverthorn. I'm pretty sure all it does is shoot swords out. Not know much. It's new. So if you guys have anything to tell me about it, then tell me in the comments, because I'm not sure. Not really know how to counter it with any weapons or mechs, because I haven't seen much gameplay of it. I actually haven't seen much of it at all, really. Solus is the most annoying mech in the game, and I wish it was never created. it pretty much blinds you, and it actually gets really, really annoying. So that's all I need to say. Quit the game if you have Solus. Just quit it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing this thing because you will never know if you run into it. It's just that good. If it blinds you, you will never know if you run into it ever. Stalker does have a lot of counters. Right above Scorpius in my opinion. As long as you shoot it during its ability, and it doesn't. Disc launchers are pretty good against it because they curve around walls and they won't have to shoot at you for you to shoot at them. So that's great. Great option to counter Stalker. Next up we have Surge, and I genuinely believe people who use Surge, I just don't know what you're doing with your life. It's above Nomad and everything else. It's just like pissed me off. Not only does he get invulnerability, he also gets like 5 seconds of stun, which is so freaking annoying because once you're stunned, mainly these guys have revokers on them and they're gonna do so much damage it's not even fair. It's not. Just I don't know what to do anymore against it. I don't know if there's really any counters to it anymore. Other than like actually, hold on. Aegis and Seeker are two great counters. If you stand at the end of your Aegis dome, the EMP won't affect it. And if you stand at the edge of the not the edge, pretty much with Seeker, if you teleport behind it right as he's dashing, you can pretty much completely counter Surge like that. So yeah. Next up is Tengu. Tengu is going to be pretty difficult, because Tengu is really, really hard. It does have some counters. I think it has more counters than Lancer, though, and less than Gatecrasher. Its ability does tons of damage, don't get me wrong, but it's mainly just useless when it comes to raw power. Once you reach mid-game, like late mid-game, stop using it. Volti, don't know much about it. It's new. I do know it has some counters, but it definitely has more counters than Redeemer, in my opinion. All the Voltis I've seen hide behind walls, use pod guns, and just shoot you like that because they're weird. So that's really all I know about Volti. Vortex has a few counters. Its ability, I don't know much about, but it's tanky and it's decently fast for a tank. It has great energy capacity, so I just don't know what else I could to do about this. I've had a big Vortex problem recently, and they actually do. I believe the Nanobot Field ability just does chip damage, and that's all I really know about it. Zephyr is like right under Mimicker but above Solus, because its ability is so good for support mech. The EMP really helps, and if you equip it with the right weapons, it could be really, really useful. I would definitely recommend picking up Zephyr. Has great HP, great energy capacity for support mech, but its speed isn't the best, so it's about as slow as a brick. But that's going to be the end of today's video. Leave a like, subscribe, and tell me what mech you think I misplaced in the comments and why. Well, see you guys later. Peace.